The next wave of business leaders won't just use AI, they'll master momentum with it, starting now. Welcome to the Mastering AI Momentum Show, where visionary founders and driven business leaders turn artificial intelligence, automation, and scalable systems into real growth, real scale, and real freedom. If you're ready to break bottlenecks, reclaim your title, and scale smarter, this is your playbook. Let's dive in. Here are your hosts, Allie Porter and Elise Smith.
Welcome to the Mastering AI Momentum Show, where today's top entrepreneurs share how they're scaling smarter, evolving faster, and navigating the future of business with or without AI. I'm Elise Smith, your AI strategist, and I'm here with our incredible guest, Sara Canaday. So, Sara, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So Sara helps leaders work smarter, lead better, and stay human in the process, which I love. That's always something that we talk about when it comes to AI, is that you've got to still have that human touch. So perfect. She's part strategist, part shepherd, and a bold voice for burned out leaders with 2 decades of experience and a vault of proven tools, which she does have some amazing stuff, guys. Sara translates big leadership ideas into real world results, whether through a keynote, a course, or her innovative leadership chatbot. Her specialty, helping leaders let go of outdated habits, rethink how they show up, and deliver results in our always-on, do-more world. She blends edge with empathy, wit with wisdom, and always keeps her focus on what leaders truly need to succeed today. So, Sara, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I am looking forward to our conversation.
Me too, absolutely. Well, good. So tell me a little bit more about, how you got started and what you do.
Well, okay, so I am probably very typical of maybe a lot of your listeners and entrepreneurs that you serve, in that I got started in a very traditional sense, right? Went to college, went to graduate school, worked in corporations, started at the very bottom, worked my way up to management level. Eventually, when I exited, I was a VP of operations, but reached a point where I, was saying to myself, is this it, right? The same reports, the same meetings. And I will say this, when I was asking myself this question, it was, 2 decades ago, right? And so we weren't really enriched then with the kind of amazing changes and evolutions and micro innovations that were happening every day, right? So, there was a lot of standard operating procedure. And that didn't make for a very exciting journey at the time, right? Because today I coach leaders all the time who, if anything, they're saying, I feel compelled or pushed to climb the ladder or do more or do different. But frankly, I have such an array of deliverables and ideas and changes coming at me that I've got plenty on my plate, and I am being fulfilled. In fact, in some cases, I could use less, right? So, that was kind of my journey when I asked myself, is this it? That's when I decided to look into entrepreneurship, having my own practice and focusing solely on the part of my job that I really loved, which was how to motivate people, how to influence, what makes people tick and perform, how to bring out the best in people. Why is it that some brilliant people get sidelined or don't get opportunities? Or why is it that some brilliant people that do get opportunities blow them? Either can happen, right? So yeah, then it led me to opening my own, boutique leadership development firm, where I focused a lot on anything from your presence, how you show up, how you choose to interact and behave, and how all those impact your ability to succeed. So well beyond your credentials and your mental stamina and ability. And through the years, that has morphed into not only being candid with people about what might keep them from getting ahead to, okay, now maybe you're ahead as a leader, but you're drowning, right? Because that's what I've been seeing. And so really for the past, I would say 6 years, pre-COVID, I was already trying to help leaders navigate this, as you mentioned in the opening, always on do more world, right? And AI is just thrown an accelerant on things.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you take your own experiences, right? Because I can very much relate to this. I started out in the corporate world, and then I really got into even like corporate coaching, and then moving into that of really understanding more about leadership. And it lit me up. I mean, I would geek out over this kind of stuff. So
Right.
you and I could talk about that forever. But what do you feel like was the catalyst for you to decide to really go out there and do this on your own?
Wow. I will say that at the time I was also burnt out. So I can relate to these leaders, right? And not a lot sounded exciting to me. I think I was in that phase when you're that burnt out, I wanted to do something almost mindless. But my company, looking back, this was so gracious of them, offered to support and pay for a career coach at the time. Honestly, I think they were hoping that maybe I would find sort of a renewed sense in staying in a different part of the organization. But that career coach really helped me shift my thinking. Number one is my fear was that if I were to jump into entrepreneurship, I would be working even more hours. And that was a fear of mine. She changed my paradigm. She got me to see that that wasn't necessarily the case, that I could write my ticket in terms of what that looked like, right? The other thing she did for me is, we would meet weekly and she would give me these assignments that were kind of out of my comfort zone. I was always very analytical. And she would say, I want you to do kind of a vision board of what your next phase would look like in your career. And I would show up to the next meeting and she'd say, well, did you do the vision board? I'd say, well, no, but I have a spreadsheet of all of these potential contacts and positions I can reach out to. And she was like, no.
I love it.
Yeah. Let's do something different. I want you to read this month's issue of Working Women's Magazine because it highlights the top 20 women entrepreneurs. Well, something unexpected happened where I was reading the magazine, but in between the articles of these top entrepreneurs, I saw a little blurb about this woman in my hometown of Austin, Texas, who had just started her own professional presence and communication firm, and how she was using technology, phone technology, to help her stay on top of her business. So it really wasn't even about her business. It was her business focus that really caught my attention. So at the encouragement of this coach, I reached out to her. We met over a glass of wine. She had just launched a book. She was on the Today Show. She could not keep up with what was happening in her business, and she was putting together a cadre of people she wanted to certify and train in what she was doing to help her.
So perfect.
Serendipitous, right?
Yeah.
And so one thing led to another, and I was, sort of under her wing, if you will, traveled with her and two others to do some training of executives. She let us, watch how she performs and what she does, and got certified. It was a pretty thorough process. And by the way, it was an investment and one I didn't take lightly. And so next thing I know, I was shifting. And, as the story goes, her business dried up with one of the first, I think it was, I'm trying to remember the date, But, we had a little minor recession and all that business suddenly dried up. But, it's one of those things where it was probably the best thing that could have happened because it forced me to build my own business.
Mm-hmm.
And within a couple of years, I came out from under her website brand and built my own. And then next thing you know, so I didn't necessarily set out to do my own thing, right? I didn't always have this vision of, oh my gosh, one day I want to be my own boss. In fact, I have no problem working for other people. People are shocked when I say that. It just happened that way. And I learned so much in the process.
Wow. That is so beautiful. You honestly never know where those nudges are going to take you, right? When you're on that path that you're supposed to be on, your answer can come in a newspaper article or a magazine, right? Like
Right.
It's so cool that you just went where you felt like your heart was going, especially because you're a very logical person. I totally get the whole like spreadsheet thing.
Yes. Right. I came from an era and a generation where you never quit a job until you have one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will, I make it sound like it was from one day to the next. I will tell you that I did this certification, the training, the studying, if you will, while I was working full time. I did it after hours. I even took trips on the weekend to do this kind of focus work. And so it was a very thoughtful transition. It didn't happen overnight. I also understand that being married at the time, that was another factor, right? Where my husband had a job. Had I been solo, I don't know that I would have taken that leap.
Yeah.
Now people do it all the time today, right?
Yeah.
And I just know what my constitution for that kind of risk is. And so I did it my way, if you will, very methodical.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's authentic to you. So makes a lot of sense. So talk to me about your scaling story. How were you able to go from, that very first client to, you work with some pretty big clients now, and you're doing really, really well in your business. What were some of those turning points that you feel like you had where it really pushed you into momentum?
Yeah, I think that this might resonate with a lot of people. In the early days, even though you set out to do, for example, leadership consulting, leadership training, whatever the case is, when you get a client and they ask you for something, your tendency is to say, well, that's kind of in the wheelhouse. I can do that, right? And so the first years, I think I spent more time than I should have accommodating what was coming to me in terms of opportunity. Instead of saying, nope, I'm going to set up some boundaries here. I'm really going to focus on what is my topic. I'm going to build it. I'm going to build some intellectual property around that topic, and I'm going to stick to it. Right. But we all, I think, do that. We accommodate some of the business that's there initially because that's what helps us bootstrap our business. I learned a lot from that, but then I finally got clear that that isn't scalable. If you keep reinventing and redesigning something new, yes, you could replicate it or use it again if that's something that you see over and over. But what happens usually in the early years is you're not necessarily replicating it. You're customizing too much for every client. So that was the first learning for me, is when I just set clearer boundaries and I said, no, I'm not going to take a client and try to retrofit my intellectual property or my focus just to get the business. I need to find the clients. Yeah, I need to find the clients who really get where I spend my time and my energy and who could most benefit from what I do. So that was the first lesson. The second lesson, I think, was even bigger, in that I, for so many years, was afraid and reluctant to invest a lot in the business, right? I was doing everything myself. You name it, I wore 5 hats. When I reached a point where I said, I tell other people that until they invest in themselves, others may not invest in them. Anything from how they show up in meetings, how they're dressed, how they come across, how much they invest in putting in the work on a presentation or a pitch, all of those things. But I wasn't practicing what I preach. So I then decided I'm going to get some help where I need it the most. At the time, it was content creation. It was building out my IP and my platform, whether that was in a form of my first book, whether it was in the form of my first workbook that went with some of my trainings at the time. And I got to tell you, I did invest. I finally invested. It was a little nerve-wracking. I was anxious. But within a year, I'm not kidding, within a year of finally investing in my business, I started to see the returns. Wow. And so I got more and more what I consider bold. For somebody else, it may not, right? I have a colleague who laughs at me because to this day, I have such discernment over should I or should I not invest in this? And he's quite the opposite. He's a burn the ships kind of guy. Yeah, I got a little bolder in like I said, in my book, bold is somebody else's probably normal. And I just kept seeing a difference in the growth of my business. Those are probably two of the biggest learning factors that got me where I am today.
Yeah. It's so true. And I think it's all about the mentality, right? The mindset behind it. Because the more that we hold money or our resources, even our time and our energy, as like closely as we possibly can, the more it kind of seems to slip through our like the cracks in our hands, right? Because we're not doing anything with it. I like how you call it an investment, because it is investing in your future, in your business, in whatever that is. And so what kind of mindset did you like move from? Like, was it like a scarcity mindset to like an abundance mindset? I'm just kind of curious about that a little bit.
Gosh, I think the biggest mindset for me was to believe in myself and that I was worth the investment. Yeah. I mean, the same holds true with how I was pricing my services. I mean, I reached a point where people said to me, you could charge double. And I was like, wait, really? I mean, that was so uncomfortable for me. Being on the other side of it, for example, when I was in corporate and I had to hire somebody to come in to either speak to my division or do a 2-hour training, and all I could think about was multiplying the people in the room times their salary for the time, it had to be worth it. And that mentality almost hamstrung me because I kept thinking of, wow, whatever I do in the 90 minutes to half a day to a keynote, all I could think about is it better be worth these people's time and money. And that may have, again, held me back a little bit, but it wasn't until I stepped into my value, and I know that sounds really corny, but I had to have a lot of messaging from people who were very wise, who had been in the business longer than I had, who would say, you not only need to ask for what you're worth, you need to do it confidently, right? And so I think that's the kind of mindset. It was very much about, I'm worth it, which means my business is worth the investment. Yep. And B, I'm betting on myself, right? If I'm going to spend this money, I'm betting on myself. And so if you expect other people to bet on you, but you're hesitant to do it, you're sending signals, whether you know it or not.
Yeah, definitely. And something that I want to touch on of what you were talking about, there's really the difference between transactional relationships and investments and transformational relationships and investments. Like, it's not necessarily how many hours that speaker is up on stage, that it's really what you're able to help that audience with. And so it doesn't equate. I mean, especially with us logical people, right? We're like, 1 + 1 = 2, and that's how it should be. But it actually 1 + 1, equals 500 sometimes, just based off of that transformation you're able to get. And just by checking out everything that you're doing and just talking to you, I can already tell you are a transformational leader. And that is worth a whole lot more than just your time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to tell you that I can get on stage and I can motivate or do a talent that leaves people in awe, right, up on stage with my message. But really, what I hope to do is yes, provoke thought and inspire, but I'm constantly trying to add value in terms of really actionable things. How do I take a lot of the theory and operationalize it? Right? Because I was there as a leader. I would be the one in the room going, okay, great. This is such theory. You don't get it. You come spend a day in my shoes. How do I do it? Tell me exactly how to do it. Right?
Mm.
So that's always in the back of my mind when I'm delivering any sort of focused presentations is how do I help these leaders overcome the challenge? Um,
Mhm.
and they're very smart leaders. It's just they need a jump start. They need a shortcut. They need a hack.
Definitely. Yes. Woman after my own heart. Like, when I was coaching and teaching, like, it was all about how they can implement what it is that I'm teaching. It's not just theory. So yes, yes, yes. Okay. Well, you've got some really fun stuff coming up when it comes to AI, and you've already started to kind of play around with this world. So tell me a little bit more about what you and your company are doing in the AI space and what's got you excited.
Yeah, well, so I've been fortunate to be able to take some really important parts of leadership and work with AI and help teach those areas. So let's give you an example: coaching, right? Leaders today want to learn how to be a better coach to the people that report to them. And, you know, again, you can either feel like you have a natural ability to be a coach. I think a lot of leaders I know say, I want to do it, but A, I don't have the time, or B, I'm not sure how to do it. So they can read a book and, I can sit here and promote my last book on that's exactly what it was. Or they could take to any AI tool. Let's just use ChatGPT, for example, and they can, in the privacy of their own home, practice real world coaching scenarios. They can literally feed ChatGPT. I've got an employee who's doing XYZ. They've been with me for 8 years. This is something I didn't expect. I'm not sure how to approach it. I want to come across as fair, supportive, yet I need them to know XYZ. You can feed any number of things. You can either say, how would you approach it? Give me the opening 2 sentences. You could say, create a scenario where you're going back and forth with this person. And so you can just read it. Or you can say, you play the role, ChatGPT, of the employee. I'm going to be the leader. And please role play this with me, right? You can even go as far as to say, okay, at some point during our role play, throw a curveball in there, right? So
Mhm.
you can literally practice for the unknown. Or you could just simply say, hey, I want to be really good at asking insightful questions to start the conversation, to show that I'm open. Knowing the scenario, give me 3 or 4 questions that are open-ended questions. that would help me get the perspective of the employee, help the employee see that I'm interested in more than just criticizing, all kinds of things. So take that one scenario that's a role of a leader, and the opportunities are endless with regard to what are the other things I need to do as a leader, and how can AI help me do that? So the coaching one, for example, is I have a course on LinkedIn Learning on how to use AI to enhance your coaching, right? But what I decided is if that has become so helpful, which I've heard from leaders who've taken that course that it's been extremely helpful, why not use that same process with every other sort of role, requirement, and task that a leader does? So now I've identified about 9 major roles that a leader plays in their day-to-day world, and I'm working on a course on how to use AI to do that. Now, here's where it gets really exciting, and you know this, Elise. I'm working on making that course available via an AI platform, right? So that a leader can get a fully customizable learn as you go, right? And so they can add their priorities for the quarter, for example. They can add their most important objectives. They can dump in all their reports, their meetings, their tasks, and they can ask AI to help them prioritize. And what I would love for this thing to do, and we're working on it now, is that it actually, once it gives you the output, it keeps it in a journal for that, a digital journal for that learner. So the opportunities not only for leaders to use AI, but for AI to become their learning partner is explosive.
Ugh, it just gives me chills, right? Because I remember, in the corporate world when I was coaching people, it was so much more difficult, right? Like just the other day, I knew I needed to have a difficult conversation with someone in my business. And I went to ChatGPT, just like you said, and I role played with it. And it was amazing, especially with that voice feature. It can give you feedback at the end of like, you did good on this, but you might want to try this. That is such a game changer. But when I was in the corporate world, I was working really with a lot of salespeople. And sometimes there were times where I'm like, I don't know how to help you. Like, I don't know how to help you get out of your head. I don't know how to like help you to overcome this particular challenge. You're never stuck with ChatGPT. You're never stuck with AI, but you use tools like Sarah's talking about to be able to take it further than what you could do on your own. Yeah, you can absolutely ask ChatGPT that kind of thing. But when you have Sarah's brain and her experience and her knowledge behind this system that is attached to AI and embedded that into her program, like that is a game changer, guys. Like, I hope you realize how incredible this concept is that Sarah's working on, and it's just going to blow everything out of the water. I'm so excited for you.
Yes, I'm excited about it as well. Yeah. It is, I always tell people AI is not going to make you a better leader, right? You've got to have, you've got to look at what leadership is, what it means. You've got to believe in it, right? But AI will help you. And in fact, AI will help you make more time for the human-centric parts of leadership. And whether you're using it to help you coach, whether you're using it to help you write or relay some sort of a business case, I always tell people, don't be a cover band, right? Don't take it as is. It's a jumpstart. You got to then make it your own. Mm-hmm. But the time it will save, I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so neat on the other side of it, where we get to create those types of things for people like you, and we get to really help to take that idea to the next level that is only going to help us all become better leaders and better, husbands and wives. And it's just really neat when you can take someone's experience and their knowledge and add it to AI to help other people. It's amazing. So I love the fact that you're sharing, what's coming up for you and just what you're doing with AI. I really, really I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, and for me, it's a natural, logical next step in this principled, method that I want to stay true to, which is, how do I help leaders? I mean, I can go on and complain about the expectations that we're placed on leaders and that they're getting out of hand. And yes, I've written about that. And when I do write about it, I write this much about it, but I spend the rest of the time trying to help leaders overcome what's expected of them, right? Mm-hmm. And this to me is the natural flow to the next step of what it means to help leaders move from overload to being edgy and on top of things.
Mm-hmm. Yes, such a great conversation. I love this. So as we're wrapping up here, if people want to know more about what you're up to and how they can work with you, tell us where they contact you.
Yeah, well, so they can go to my website. It is my full name, and it's a mouthful, Sara Canaday, lots of A's in that. Definitely very present on LinkedIn, posting a lot. I'm commenting on others people's posts. My aim, again, to be helpful. Or they can email me directly at sarah@saracanaday.com. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter. Any way they're comfortable reaching out, happy to hear from your listeners.
I love it. Yes, definitely reach out to her for sure. This has been such a great show. Thank you so much for your time, Sara. And Absolutely. If you guys want to learn more about how you can take AI into your business and really have custom solutions to be able to reach that next level, definitely check out m2aiagency.com. So thank you once again, Sara. This has been a great conversation today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in to Mastering AI Momentum, where AI means artificial intelligence, but also abundance and impact. Because scaling isn't about doing more, it's about building smarter and staying true to what matters most. We'll see you guys next time.
You've been listening to Mastering AI Momentum. If today's episode gave you clarity or sparked a breakthrough, share it, review it, leave us a comment, and show Ali and Elise how you're turning AI into ROI. And make sure you subscribe, because the next episode could be the strategy that unlocks your next level. Until then, build smart, scale fast, and let AI multiply your momentum.